my first kitchen. I was probably 23, 24. A buddy of mine had just purchased a townhouse. We walked into Home Depot, purchased off-the-shelf cabinets, and I realized my measuring, my designing needed much improvement. So that was beginning of the path and the evolution of my kitchen process from my first year in business until now. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm not sure when you listen to this, but regardless of when it is, I hope that you are having one of those few things. A good morning, a good afternoon, a good evening. Hope you guys are enjoying an early fall. I experienced my first taste of fall last week. I had a quick trip in and out of Boston and New Hampshire. So I flew into Boston Thursday night, landed, I think around 10:30. Got a few hours of sleep. Nick and I got up early, drove 3 hours up to North Conway, New Hampshire to meet with Anderson Windows. Brooke was there, Doug Mullen, and who else? Doug from Motif Media, Paul from Motif Media, and we filmed some content for Anderson, the last part of 3-part series that we're doing for them. So I got my first taste of fall driving up from Boston to New Hampshire. The trees were starting to turn. We were driving through some mountains, super pretty, great weather. Didn't want to leave, but unfortunately, we had to get back in the car, drive 3 hours to Boston, and I flew out and got home around midnight by the time I walked in the door on Friday night. So it was a quick trip up to Boston, New Hampshire, and back. While I was in Boston, I got to see Nick's new build, which is white oak. And I don't know why I didn't put two and two together that the street is white oak, but it is. So if you were unaware of that, and maybe I'm just an idiot, but it's on White Oak, the street. Super cool build. And like, I've seen the design, I've seen all the modeling, I've seen the site when they were doing the foundation, but seeing the house framed and the windows in and the skylight in and walking the build in person, it is way, way, way cooler in person. Just the scale of it, how it fits on the property, what, how, like, it seemed like a neighborhood lot, but like there's still so many trees that they preserve that it's pretty private around the 3 sides of the home. There's so much glazing in the house, so many details. It's framed, and plumbing rough-in has started. HVAC hasn't yet, electrical, but just like the amount of framing details that have gone into it, I was like, why is this like this? What about this? What are you doing here? What about how this ties it? It's insane. Really cool. If you haven't checked that build out, check it out. I know Nick is really putting himself out there with this build. There's a ton of liability, a ton of risk, but I'm confident that there's nothing else being built like this right now. So super proud of him for doing that. Really, really impressive. Just crazy to think that he's taking that on, because it's what he wants to do. And check out that build. Check out all his content around it. It's insane. Really, really cool. If you have the chance to walk it, I know we're going to be up there for the Contractors Coalition Summit in a little over a week. So if you have not yet and you want to check it out, you can register for that at contractorcoalitionsummit.com, and come hang out with us in Boston. What else is going on? Yeah, so that was a bit chaotic, a quick trip in and out. And then I'll be up again, which is why I made a quick trip in and out. But really fun to see everyone. Great to spend time with Doug, Nick, Paul, see Brooke from Anderson Windows, Doug up in New Hampshire. Really cool development that he's doing up there right on the ski mountain. So it was fun to get to do that. But it's been busy. It's been nonstop. Family life's nonstop. Work is nonstop. Podcasting nonstop. Social nonstop. It's like I need a couple more days each week to try and get back on track. I don't know if you guys feel like that now. A tough time of year. School starting up. Athletics starting up. It's been a lot. I've been trying to run more consistently for the past 6 months or so. I'm trying to put around 20 miles per weekend. So I'm adding that to my list of things to do. I'm not the type of person to get up at 5 in the morning and go run in the dark. I prefer to do it after work, generally before dinner if possible, because I don't like to eat and then run. But that's been enjoyable, and being consistent with that has been nice. I did my longest run since I picked back up around 6 months ago, trying to be more consistent. I ran 8 miles on Saturday, which was nice. I try and run like 4 miles at a time. That's a decent pace and distance for me. But it has been nice. It's been enjoyable. It's been something to get me out, sweat a little, reduce some anxiety when I can't get out and ride my dirt bike. And it's a nice time of year to be outside. So I hope that you guys are all staying healthy, staying happy, spending some time at work, some time with the family, balancing it all. And if you aren't, make sure that you do that, because it's not just about work. It's not just about business. You gotta have a mix in there. And I know that it's chaotic with the kids starting school and getting back to life, and customers' kids starting school, but you got to make some time for yourself and for the things that make you happy. I'm going to get right to it today. I guess I just didn't do that for the past 5 minutes. But one thing I want to note before I start is the next 2 months I am slammed with work, social content, traveling, family stuff. So I will not have very much time for consulting calls. I had one this morning, which was a really nice call that I really enjoyed. I did two last week, which is somewhat of my happy spot. Two I can make time for. Anything more than that winds up being a little bit more difficult for me. But the next probably 2 months, I might be only doing one consulting call per week. I don't know if I'll be able to cut it with two. It's limited time, limited availability. So if there's something in business that you want to work on, something in life that you want to work on, if you have a question about something, shoot me an email, tyler@trghomeconcepts.com, and I can get you all the information about scheduling a consulting call to help you straighten your business out a little bit, straighten your lifestyle out, hopefully not work quite as much, understand how to capture all your hours, all your time, get paid for what you're doing, and not have to run around like a chicken with your head cut off and not have time for anything. So today's blog post and podcast is something I've wanted to touch on for a while now. And it's a little bit of my kitchen process and kitchen design and the two different ways that I will tackle that and approach that. Some background. I started my business when I was 23. My first kitchen, I was probably 23, 24. A buddy of mine had just purchased a townhouse, was on an extreme budget. We walked into Home Depot, purchased off-the-shelf cabinets, used all the existing appliances, and off-the-shelf trims like the melamine trims, and did his kitchen. It was good for what it was considered, but not what I would want to be doing probably more than once. And I realized that my measuring, my designing, my vendor for kitchens at that point needed much improvement. So that was beginning of the path and the evolution of my kitchen process from my first year in business until now, what I believe is my 14th or 15th year in business. And it continues to evolve. I continue to change things, and it's not perfect. Sometimes it's more perfect than others. Some jobs are easier than others. Some customers are easier than others. I have standards for my process, and it generally goes one of two ways. It's not like I have standards and I have an overall system, but it's not linear. It's not black and white. There's some give and take. There's ways to do this, which I find to be the most efficient for me, but they're still not super efficient. So I'm always looking to improve my systems. I'm looking to make it as seamless as possible and as efficient as possible, and create the best product based on what the client and the project demands of me. So let's talk about what my two different, I guess, options for kitchens are. One is the first one I'll talk about, which is a client comes to me and for whatever reason, we decide to bring them to a cabinet showroom or bring them to a kitchen designer who sells kitchen cabinets. So I'm not the one selling the cabinets. There's pros and cons to this. Let's think about some of the pros. The pros, way less of a time commitment on my behalf. They can also, at that point, we have access to any cabinet brand. So we can hit any budget, any style. They get to see these kitchens live in a space. They can go to a showroom, and I'm not relying on renderings and door samples. They can see full kitchen displays, touch them, feel them. They get to work with somebody who does this on a daily basis. This is all they do is design and sell kitchens. So it frees me up of a lot of work. Some of the cons to that may be, one, I don't make the markups that I make when I sell cabinets myself. So the way that typically it works is and this is all negotiable, but a lot of times I'll send them to a kitchen designer. They'll sell the kitchen based on the cost of the kitchen. They'll just throw me a kickback, a percentage of what the sale is after they sell the kitchen. So I'll get a check cut back to me. So I make a smaller percentage on them. I generally have less work. Another con is that I think we're on cons, right? Yeah, cons. So I make a little bit less money. I'm not as involved because I'm passing this off, and that's part of the program here, is that it's requiring less time of me. So I'm passing this off to somebody else. The ball's in their court. I'm not as involved from day one through the entire design process, to go over every single detail and ensure that it is designed from an installation perspective. So at times things can be missed. And the one good thing is when things are missed, it's not on me to necessarily fix that from a time or a money perspective, because I didn't sell the cabinet. So if there's a mismeasure or there's a design interference, or there's a quality issue, there's a warranty issue, it's on the cabinet vendor, the cabinet designer, and their agreement to make those fixes. That does not completely absolve me of the work required to fix it. You know, I may have to put something in and then pull it down. I may have to perform field modifications. I may have to meet with designers and meet with the cabinet vendor to come up with a solution. I may have to leave cabinets out and not be able to continue with the work or get the finishes installed or countertops, which affects me. It affects my income, it affects my job, my schedule, everything else. So passing this off does not completely absolve me of all responsibility. But at the end of the day, if there's a warranty issue or mismeasure, at least I'm not paying for the cabinets. Again, I find that once I step back from controlling that process at a very high level, when I'm less involved, I do not catch all the mistakes. I'm not reviewing it as intensely as if I am the one handling the design, in-house, warrantying, fitment of appliances, everything else, the measuring, if the floor's out, if the walls are out, all the scribes, all of that stuff. Once I pass that off, for whatever reason we chose that was the right move, and the proper decision based on what this customer's demands were and requirements, it's at that point I'm mistakes can be made, and I don't feel that the detail is typically as good. A lot of times these people are used to sending scribe moldings, extra moldings. Not everything's accounted for, and when we're building and designing custom kitchens, I think The price point's already there. They're already living in the custom world that we should have enough budget and time to commit to designing, building, and executing a custom kitchen. So that is the one route. And again, you could say, well, why would you go this route? It depends on budget. It depends on what the customer's needs are. If they want to see a kitchen installed, if they want somebody to give them countless designs, if they need CAD drawings and they want to see full renderings and they want to see every single door sample and style. If they don't have the budget to pay for design, if they just want a specific type of kitchen because they had this kitchen in another house, these are all reasons to go this route. That there's better cabinet lines than I'm a dealer for. So if they want a super high-end kitchen, they may go through this whole process and they may account for and detail everything somewhat different than what I just spoke about, but like they may take the time to do that, and it may be a super high-end kitchen, but that's going to cost a certain amount. So when I'm dealing these kitchens, a lot of times I can get all of these custom details integrated in with a mid to upper line of cabinet that doesn't necessarily break the bank. So it all depends on the market you're in, your customer, what their needs are, what's important to you, how you make money, everything else. But these are my two options. So that's option A. Option B is going to be where I'm hired. I'm going to sell one of the cabinet lines that I'm a dealer for. The pros to this, I handle everything. So if I accounted for everything, there should be minimal mistakes because I've lived with this design and I've gone through this design and I've met with this customer. There's no communication breaches. There's going to be few field modifications. It should be a pretty seamless process. That's a pro. The other pro, I can make more money doing this because when I'm dealing cabinets, I'm paying a very small margin for them. Well, not small, smaller margin. So I can make a lot more money. I also spend more time, but I can get paid for the pre-construction. So I can grow my business from that perspective. I can make a lot of money selling cabinets, but I don't necessarily enjoy it. It's not how I make a living. That's not how I want to make a living. Dealing with design, dealing with cabinet delivery, dealing with installation, warranting, it's a lot of work, and that's not how I'm set up and structured. So I sell on the jobs that I'm actually doing the remodel work for, and it's typically not just kitchens. Like I'm not just selling a kitchen cabinet package and then installing that. Pros, I can control that entire process. I can ensure that the kitchen is profitable, that we're not over designing, that I'm not promising the customer something that I can't execute or I can't deliver. Some cons is that I am responsible for all of that. I do have to warranty this. I do have to spend a ton of time on this. I have to spend a ton of time on the computer. I have to stuff that I don't really enjoy doing. I have to be responsible for bringing in a draftsman or a cabinet designer. I have to own the contract, the liability. The mistakes cost me a lot. They cost me material. They cost me lead times. They cost me labor. Again, I'm trying to outweigh that with the pros and making more money. But when things go bad, they're on me. I have to establish the relationships with the cabinet companies and deal with everything on the back end. I'm putting out more money at first, exposing myself to more risk, more liability. I feel, depending on the job, the pros may outweigh the cons again, but it all depends on what the job calls for and what the customer needs. For my own kitchen, I would sell the cabinets that I sell, and I would design it, and it would fit the bill for me. But other contractors may be different, and other customers may be different than myself. So the way that this works is somebody comes to me and it's like, hey, we figure out what their program is, what their needs are. If we're going to have them go to a cabinet showroom, for myself, I don't have a cabinet showroom. So I'm bringing door samples. I'm bringing finish samples. I'm meeting with the customer. We're providing them with all of the sales literature to sell these, but I don't have a cabinet showroom, so they can't see unless I bring them to a job or bring them to a house that I've done. They can't see this in real person. So that sometimes is a turnoff for people, that they wouldn't want to go this route. For other people, they're fine with the door styles. They're fine with pictures. They're fine seeing something in person. I could bring them to the cabinet showroom, but it's a 2-hour drive. Doesn't make sense. Generally, there's other options if that's if that's a point of contention for them. So if somebody comes to me to decide that it makes sense to sell one of the cabinet lines that I'm a dealer for, the way that process looks is a lot different. So what I would do in that case is I would I would speak to the customer, understand what their needs were, how much they wanted to spend on this kitchen. If we decide that it's a good fit and we enter, or I want to enter into pre-construction, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some photos of that space and I'm going to do a quick measure of that space. I'm going to send that to my cabinet designer that I use. She's not selling the cabinets. She's doing the drawings, the renderings. She is creating order acknowledgments. She's reviewing them, and she is combining all of this information to submit to the manufacturer to have the order placed. So I take these pictures, I take these measurements, I send them to Carolyn, and I say, hey, Carolyn, these are the deliverables that I need for this. I need 2 iterations of the kitchen design. I'm going to need a preliminary budget created with an order acknowledgement. I'm going to need you to redline that. I'm going to need you to, at that point, meet with the customers to go over design. And then I'm going to need you to do your own measure. We're going to create a final design. You're going to submit it for an order. I'm going to get everything back. I'll redline everything. I'll create all the shop drawings. You'll now we'll approve budgeting, meet with the customers a final time, ensure that all the details, the moldings, the colors, the finishes, the wood, everything's correct. Then you'll combine all of that information and you will submit it to the cabinet manufacturer an additional time to make sure that everything's good. You'll review it. We'll sign off on it together. So that's what I require of her. And I ask, how much is that going to cost? She'll give me a price. I add that to my pre-construction. I add my time to that pre-construction. Here's what it's going to cost to design your kitchen. And then I'll sell them the kitchen at that point. So once I understand roughly we're in this cost, I'm going to go measure the space. I'm going to send that to Carolyn. She's going to give me back my 2 versions. I send them, or I sit down and I meet with the customer, and it's just gut check. What do you like? What don't you like? I'll get all of that information. We'll understand where we need to be. If Carolyn needs to make some slight tweaks, hey, move this here, move this here. We've already solidified a design, or at least a conceptual design, and then I'll give that back to the customer. Let's say, yeah, this is pretty close to what we want. Let's actually get in and measure the space. So at this point, I'll schedule a site visit with the kitchen designer. We'll bring all the sales literature. We'll bring all the samples, the finishes, everything that we need to meet with the customer to start making design decisions, as well as measure the space. I'm going to measure the space with her on her computer. So everything that's important to me, casings, projections, what walls are changing, where things are going to go, what the framing looks like, where we can put the hood. While she's measuring, we're going to put our heads together and make note of all of these things. So as she measures this kitchen, when she leaves, she has all the information, my perspective, my experience to go back and start doing a final layout for this kitchen. She'll create that final layout, that design. She's going to then kick that through whatever program that computer company or that cabinet company uses, if it's 2020. Send that to the cabinet company, and they're going to give us an order acknowledgement, a takeoff of all the parts required for that kitchen. At that point, I can go to the customers and say, hey, this is what we're looking at as far as costs. It has my markup in it. It has the money that I'm paying Carolyn in it, everything. So I can, at that point, I can start making revisions to that design to tailor it to exactly what I need done. So when I'm sending the customer this preliminary budget, they understand it's preliminary budget. Now we're going to go through and we're going to redline everything. It's going to get us in the ballpark of where we need to be. So Carolyn's going to review all of that information, make sure that it is documented and acknowledged the way that we designed it. I'm going to, at that point, go through that acknowledgement and those details and all that information, and I'm going to start adding information that's relevant to my install. I need to make sure this left side's finished. Maybe that's already noted, but I'm going to make sure that that's there. I need this style extended 3 inches on this side because I need to bump the refrigerator away from that wall. What does that do to the other cabinets? I'm going to note all that on the drawings. I'm going to note where I need extended backs. I'm going to note where I need a cabinet knockdown. I'm going to note where I need the back of a cabinet removable. All of the custom details and information I'm going to note, and I'm going to redline and mark on the drawings. At this point, I'm going to take the entire appliance package and I'm going to start drawing shop drawings for these cabinets to submit with our order. So I'll go through and I'll get the microwave specs, the fridge specs. I'm taking into account if the floor's out of level, what the opening size needs to be, where the outlets need to be. I'm drawing these cabinets and all of the details that I need to provide with Carolyn. I'm not relying on Carolyn to create those shop drawings. I'm doing all of that, and this is just what works best for me. And again, it's a heavy lift for me from a time perspective, but it's my way to guarantee that everything's done right, and I'm not having to make field modifications. Once I get all of that information, all these drawings, all the red line, I will then compile that, and I'll send it to Carolyn and say, "Can you put this together and send this to the cabinet company?" So at that point, she can take all that information, make it look nice and neat, combine it, send it to the cabinet company. I'll most likely hop on a phone call with whoever works at that cabinet company who's going through my order to make sure that they understand my language, my drawings, Carolyn's language, Carolyn's drawings, to create an order or an acknowledgement that's as accurate as possible. So once we have that phone call, they see all the information, I answer any questions that they have, they will then create whatever information, drawing, renderings, shop drawings, whatever they need to acknowledge this order, and they'll send it back to Carolyn and myself. I will then have Carolyn go over it and reference and double check that everything is as intended and essentially redline it again. And I'll do the same. I'll make sure that everything's right. And at that point, we'll have final costing to send to the customer. And I can say, this is what your kitchen cabinet, this is your deliverables, here's the acknowledgement, here's everything. I need you to sign off on this. This is the deposit required. And now we can purchase the cabinet. So obviously that is a heavy, heavy lift on my end. On Carolyn's end, it costs money. But being that I'm paying such a small percentage of the cabinet cost, I can make all that money back on the markup. With option A, there's not enough budget because the cabinet designer and the cabinet showroom needs to be making that money there. With option B, I'm the one making that money. Carolyn's the one making that money. And that is where the markup comes into the cabinet. I'm also accounting for, mismeasures, mistakes, warranty, fixes, all of that stuff, because not any job is perfect. There's always going to be mistakes. There's always going to be information that you leave out or that's improperly communicated, and there's going to need to be fixes. The idea is to reduce them to the smallest amount that have the smallest impact possible. So I have a specific customer who wants that. And to me, I generally get a better product for the budget going that route than I would if I just sent them to a cabinet designer. Because at the end of the day, a lot of the companies that are going to do that and spend the amount of time that I did, and they're going to protect themselves, it can be a higher price point than I can come in with the level of cabinets that I sell, which may not be the highest end cabinets, but I can integrate all the custom details into them and get a really great cabinet package for the cost, with all of these custom details. And it still might be more competitive than the upper echelon of cabinet company where you're paying for the name of the cabinet, and you're paying for the overhead of this showroom. Um, so that's a way that I can bring a really high quality cabinet package to the table, with really comprehensive design, and not necessarily have to pay the ultimate price. Again, there's some people that want that. There's other people who want a showroom, right? They want the name. They want the specific style of cabinet. They want to be able to work with somebody in a space. They want to be able to pull the drawers out and feel them in person. And those people, I understand that I'm not going to sell them the cabinets that I'm a dealer for, because that's not what they want. And then when there's issues down the road, or hey, we didn't realize the trash pullout was going to be like this, um, I don't have to deal with that. They made all those decisions with the cabinet company. Now that liability, that exposure, that risk is on the cabinet company. So those are my two options for cabinets. And some of the reasons why customers and myself may go in either direction. There's not a right, there's not a wrong. It's just ensuring that the customer's expectations and my expectations fit the needs of that client and that project. And I think that a lot of times is what makes a successful kitchen design. It's not necessarily that it is the highest end design, that it's the best design, that it's the best cabinet, but it meets the customer's expectations of what they're getting. Because at the end of the day, it is almost impossible to articulate every single detail of every single kitchen that you're designing for a customer, even if they go see it in the space, even if you produce renderings. There's just things that may be different, because there's no way to properly articulate and illustrate exactly what every single component of that kitchen design is going to be until you get in the space and you see it and you feel it. So through design, we're trying to control that process as much as possible and manage those expectations, and then deliver a kitchen that's as close to expectations as possible, that hits the points that the customer, that's important to the customer, that's valuable to the customer. And that's a lot of times how I'm going to make my decision as to which direction to go. It's not oftentimes about the money. I would love to be able to hand over every kitchen design to somebody else to handle it, show up with the cabinets, and I install them. But I've realized over the years that my expectations aren't aligned when that happens, that there's too many field modifications, that details that weren't accounted for and weren't compensated for make me look like a poor installer, because there's nothing I can do about it, and because I'm not paid to be making that fix. So I either eat the fix, which I did for years and years and years. The customer pays for the fix, or the designer gets back charged for the fix, none of which makes a good experience for anyone involved. So, like, why would I do that? So I have to it's just a balance of all of these things. But I would love to be able to hand this off to somebody else and have nothing to do with cabinet design, and just make my life easier if I can guarantee that they were going to show up the way that I needed them to. I don't do enough kitchens every single year that I have those processes and the order of operation and the standard operating procedures down to a T. Again, my system is comprehensive, but there's a lot of back and forth. And every custom kitchen is that. It's custom, it's different. Even if you're using a mid-level grade of cabinet, if you have the ability to integrate custom details into it, it makes for a much better kitchen. It's still a custom kitchen. It doesn't matter the line of cabinets that you're using. So I often face challenges when handing over kitchen design and cabinet um, design to other people. So that's why I work with Carolyn, because I know her strong suits. I know what she brings to the table. She knows how I work. There is a lot of back and forth, and there may be a more efficient way to do that, but it guarantees the best chances of success, and the least amount of mistakes, and that we are compensating and accounting for as many things as possible on that install. I have two people reviewing everything. And also, being that I'm owning a lot of that, I'm not necessarily double dipping. I can pay Carolyn her fee. I make her job as easy as possible. She does what she has to do. She can make her money, and then I can do what I have to do. And there's enough budget in there for me to spend the time doing it. and still guarantee that I'm getting the outcome that I want. So that is how I approach kitchen cabinet design and my process going in option or two directions, option A, option B. If you have specific questions about that, you can let me know. If I didn't answer anything, you can let me know. If you want to get into it more deeply, you want to hop on a call to discuss it, shoot me an email, tyler@trghomeconcepts.com, and hopefully I can answer your questions or set something up for you. But I hope that this one was helpful. I know that it's something that I struggle with, and I always think there's got to be an easier way. There's got to be a better day, and better way. After speaking to more people, you just realize that it's tough. Like, this is tough to do. There's a lot going into it. There's a lot of considerations. People's minds work in different ways. Not everyone is looking at it from an installer's perspective or your perspective, which might not meet your expectations. So understanding what's important to you, what you're selling, what the customer's needs are, what they're willing to pay for, so that you're guaranteeing your profitability, is all really important in this conversation. I'm not sure when this is going to come out, but we are interviewing JCH on the podcast this afternoon, which goes hand in hand and dovetails very well with this podcast here. So if you haven't heard that one yet, hop on moderncraftsman.co, Spotify, whatever. Check out the interview with JCH, who is a sole or a single cabinet installer. And I believe that now he is designing and selling kitchens rather than being on the installation side. But we're just going to have to wait and talk to him and see. So listen to it. Spread the word. Let us know what you think. Also, Nick and I have a bunch more news coming soon, content that's going to hit the deck soon. So keep an eye out for that. The best place to find out about all of that, all things Modern Craftsman, is to sign up for the newsletter. So you can go to moderncraftsman.co, scroll to the bottom, sign up for that. Also, if you have downloaded, or if you download the free labor burden calculator or the free pre-construction agreement template, you're automatically enrolled for that newsletter. So do either one of them. As always, I appreciate everyone. I appreciate the time. I appreciate the consulting calls, spreading the word, all the support, and I will catch you guys next week.